Thank you everyone for joining us today to learn more about the new SBA $28.6 billion Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Please join me in welcoming our President and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Ramiro Cavazos.
Good afternoon, America. At the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we believe strongly that small business is big business. Our US economy, 70% of it is driven by consumer spending, purchases that we make with one another, with local businesses and other significant corporate entities. I'm very proud to represent our nation's largest Latino business organization. We have 260 Hispanic chambers of commerce in America and in Puerto Rico. We represent 4.7 million Hispanic-owned businesses, and we work with more than 200 and close to 500 of our Fortune 500 corporate entities. Our focus is to provide capital, create wealth through building capacity, and then making the connections for our members. We want more women in business and Latinos and Latinas to be at places where big decisions are being made. We're very honored today to partner with our great administrator, Isabella Casillas Guzman, on this national webinar. It's very important that we get our businesses back in business and get to work. A third of our Latino-owned businesses have been affected because of this pandemic. So we're very honored to be here with great national partners representing our board of directors. We are a pro-business, bipartisan, membership-driven national organization. We encourage you to join our movement and our chamber as we grow our future economy. I want to thank our national partners that have joined us today. The U.S. Small Business Administration clearly is leading this effort, but we have the Latino Restaurant Association, Hispanic Heritage Foundation, Hispanic Star, Congressional Hispanic Caucus, League of United Latin American Citizens, the Mexican American Women's National Association, Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, Hispanic Association on Corporate Responsibility, the Latino Coalition, the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, our Latino Corporate Directors Association, Latino Donor Collaborative, United States Hispanic Leadership Institute, Esposas Militares Hispanas, the National Association of Latino Community Asset Builders, SER Jobs for Progress, Hispanic Technology and Telecommunications Partnership, our National Hispanic Corporate Council, the Latino Business Action Network, we're All Human Foundation, Dialogue and Diversity, National Hispanic Bar Association, Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, Latinx Startup Alliance, Nuestros Negocios Telemundo, the Association of Latina Professionals of America, Latino Professionals, Latino Golfers Association, and Southwest Voter Registration. I mention these partners because solidarity and partnership is important for our Hispanic community to work with each other and make each other more successful. At this time, I'm very proud to introduce the chairwoman of the Board of Directors of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We were founded in 1979, and I'm very proud that we have with us the head of JP Morgan Chase's Community Impact Initiative called Path Forward Initiative, a $30 billion initiative. Alice Rodriguez is a native of Brownsville in the Rio Grande Valley. She's a distinguished alumnus of UT RGV. We also are very proud that she's been selected as the top 50 most powerful Latina women in corporate America. She has over 30 years of experience in banking, and she has led the capacity building and the collaboration in corporate responsibility, not just within her business, but throughout America, working with all of JP Morgan Chase's leaders. And we're very proud that she's on the board of directors of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. She will have the honor of introducing our administrator. At this time, please join me in welcoming our chairwoman of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Alice Rodriguez.
Hey, thank you, Ramiro, and good afternoon to everybody. It is my distinct honor to introduce our guest speaker. I'm a very proud Latina, and I'm so proud that our SBA administrator is a Latina as well. So Isabella Casillas Guzman was sworn in as our 27th administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration on March 17th, 2021. She serves as the voice of 30 million small businesses and innovative startups in President Biden's cabinet. Administrator Guzman grew up in a small business family herself, so she knows firsthand all the trials and tribulations that many of our small businesses face. She's been an entrepreneur herself. She has spent her entire career advising entrepreneurs, launching ventures, helping small businesses navigate government, and creating policies and programs to help advance entrepreneurship and innovation. Most recently, she served as the director of the California office of the Small Business Advocate, where she helped small businesses and innovative startups in the world's 5th largest economy start, expand, and grow. She advocated fiercely for financial relief for small businesses and focused on expanding assistance to entrepreneurs in underserved communities. In addition, she served as the Economic Recovery Support Function Coordinator for the state, where she spearheaded the small business recovery effort during COVID-19 pandemic. We truly could not have a more experienced individual leading our efforts to help rebuild our economy. So with further ado, over to you, Madam Administrator.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you've done as USHCC's chair, supporting our 4.7 million Hispanic-owned small businesses during this crisis and beyond. It's great to be here with my USHCC family and all of the incredible partners that Ramiro just listed that you gathered today. It's inspiring. And in my 6 weeks as administrator, you, the USHCC, have become such a critical partner for me and my staff as we work to get relief to our nation's small businesses. So thank you so much for gathering everyone today. Ramiro and Leroy, thank you for your leadership during these trying times. You have both worked so hard to make sure that Latino small businesses have the support and resources they need to create jobs and fuel our economy, something they do so well. We know that Latino small businesses have been hit hard by this pandemic. It's estimated that 25% have closed their doors, either temporarily or permanently over the past year. Many more are just barely holding on. This crisis has been made worse for so many by the historic inequities, particularly when it comes to accessing capital and relief. And that needs to end now, not just because Latino small businesses support families and sustain neighborhoods and our economy, but also because they support our full nation's economy, and we would grow by $1.5 trillion if Latino-owned businesses were given a fair shot. And as you've all said, Latino entrepreneurs are ready to scale and grow. They need the capital to get there. They need the market access, and SBA is here to collaborate with you to make sure that happens. And my message to all the Latino food and beverage small business owners that are listening today is that SBA is here to help you as well recover and rebuild from this pandemic so you can reopen, scale, grow. We're here to connect you with the resources you need to fuel our economy. And with the SBA's Restaurant Revitalization Fund, or RRF, help is here. La ayuda está aquí. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, which was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Biden just last month, we're giving out $28.6 billion in targeted relief through grants, not loans, to restaurants and other food and beverage businesses. And the grant application portal is going to be available starting Monday, May 3rd. So this session is so important to get everybody ready. Restaurants were among the businesses that were first to close and will likely be among the last to fully reopen. But you represent the core of our neighborhoods and propel economic activity along our main streets across the nation. Your business models have changed, revenues have been impacted, and expenses have increased as you've adapted to COVID. Restaurants desperately need help to survive, and we recognize that. Across all of our programs and policies, I want the SBA to be as entrepreneurial as the businesses we serve. Just like all of you who have had to adapt to consumer needs and pivot all year to serve your clients, the same as the SBA needs to hold true. As a result, we've designed the application and the process for the RRF, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, with restaurants and food and beverage businesses in mind as the end users of this product, paying particular attention to the reality that you've faced over the past year and how you've been running your businesses in this new marketplace. The RRF grants are up to $5 million per location, and 10 million per entity and affiliate. And that's to support restaurants that suffered revenue losses related to COVID-19. That impact is the basis of the grant award. And you will have flexibility in how you spend those relief funds. Everything from rent to supplies to business debt is allowed. And you'll also have until March 2023 to spend the funds, as we thought it was important to have that flexibility and allow you to use those funds as you need over time. We've designed this program to be tech smart as well. It has walk me through type assistance throughout the application to give you guidance and advice as you go. And the estimate is that it should take you about 25 minutes to get through this assisted process. We know businesses have adopted technology at high rates during the pandemic, so we're also integrating technology partners to increase your entry point. In addition to offering a direct application at sba.gov, we've partnered with ecosystem point of sale vendors to help you apply or get connected to the SBA portal where you're already doing business. That's with Clover, Aloha, Square, and Toast. And we'll be adding new partners as we go. We've tried to eliminate as many bureaucratic requirements as possible that just don't make sense or apply to the industry. We're focusing on simplifying the process while ensuring funds get into the right hands for those businesses who truly need it. And we know that our smallest and underserved businesses, especially those owned by people of color, have suffered the most from the pandemic, and yet many have been unable to access the relief. So Congress understood that when they included language in the American Rescue Plan that mandated a 21-day priority period for restaurants, food and beverage businesses owned by women, veterans, and socially or economically disadvantaged people. As Hispanic entrepreneurs have been impacted, as we know, disproportionately, that means you will be given priority access to these funds from May 3rd to May 24th. And since this is a first come, first served program, it's important that you put your application in as soon as possible, which is why we're so glad that this information is getting dispersed this week so that you can get ready. Congress also allocated $5 billion and set aside specifically targeted to smaller businesses. And the SBA added another $4.5 billion. So $9.5 billion of the $28.6 billion will go to smaller businesses specifically, regardless. They also directed us to ensure a broad range of restaurants and food and beverage businesses could apply. So of course, restaurants, in addition, food trucks, food carts, breweries, tap rooms, and many more, they're all included. Our focus on reaching our smallest and underserved businesses is in line with President Biden and Vice President Harris's emphasis on equity, a vision that I'm committed to at the SBA as well. We know that all of our small businesses must be supported and given opportunities to succeed if our nation is going to thrive and retain our global competitiveness. And we know it's not just the design, but also the implementation and outreach, which is why today's event is so important and why I'm so pleased that so many have partnered to help us prioritize accessibility. And just for your information as well, the funds online application portal will be available in English and Spanish. That's the first for the SBA. The actual direct application portal will be in 2 languages. In addition, there'll be another 8 languages translated and support on our customer service line in up to 17 languages. Our live customer service line is available in multiple languages, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And that's open now. Businesses without internet access can actually apply over the phone if they're not able to access broadband. We're committed to bringing this customer-first approach, technology, and equity-driven model to all of our programs at the SBA so that all of our small businesses can recover, start, grow, and build resilience for the long term. So know that the SBA has offerings fit for your business beyond the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. This pandemic will end one day soon. And thanks to the American Rescue Plan's Biden-Harris administration's Shots in Arms campaign and the dedication of healthcare workers on the front lines, half of all adults in the U.S. have received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. We know that you want to reopen fully, but also safely, and we're working hard to make that happen. And at the SBA, we're committed to making that happen for you, along with financial relief. We're here to help you get back on your feet and ensure that our restaurants and local food and beverage establishments can survive this pandemic and beyond. I take my role as the voice of America's small businesses to heart, I come from a family of small businesses. I know the impact small businesses have on our communities and on our economy. And I want them all to feel like the giants that they are in the economy. So thanks again to USHCC, Latino Restaurant Association, all the incredible organizations that have gathered today. And thank you all for everything you do for your communities, the employees that you employ in our nation's economy overall. I'd like to turn it over soon to Ernie Cidabaca with the Albuquerque Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, who will share his thoughts and introduce our SBA South Florida District Director, Victoria Guerrero. She is going to help you walk through the nuts and bolts of the program to make sure you are ready to apply, which is so important when the fund's application portal opens on Monday, May 3rd. I encourage you all to apply. We've tried to make it as simple a process as possible. And so we're here to help you do that. And know that in addition to Victoria, we have that customer service line. We have all our resource partners in the field, and they can help you as well. We need you all to get ready and apply. We know that there is a need out there that will exceed the $28.6 billion appropriation. So it's important that you apply and demonstrate the demand. And Victoria is going to do a great job in helping you in that process. So without further ado, I just want to thank you all. Keep up the hope. We're here to help. And Ernie, I'm going to turn it over to you to take over and lead us into this discussion. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Administrator Guzman. This is such wonderful and timely news, very much needed. So thank you very much. Again, my name is Ernie Cidabaca. I'm the President and CEO of the Albuquerque Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you the leadership and business expert, Victoria Garetto, who encompasses over 20 years of experience leading, managing, and transforming both private sector and public sector entities. Her transformational leadership, business management skills, and ability to change business cultures has allotted her the opportunity to positively impact businesses and communities. As a South Florida native and prior small business owner, Victoria grew up as with an entrepreneurial spirit and a passion for helping small businesses grow. As district director for the U.S. Small Business Administration, South Florida District, Victoria is responsible for leading one of the highest job creation districts in the nation. Under her leadership, Florida small businesses received over $32 billion in first draw PPP funds and over $13 billion in second draw PPP funds as of the end of March to keep businesses open and employees employed during this COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, Victoria is on special assignment for headquarters, assisting with the rollout of SBA's COVID-19 disaster relief programs. Victoria holds a master's in business administration, bachelor in communication arts, and holds multiple professional and industry certifications. Please welcome Victoria Guerrero. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ernie, and thank you all for this wonderful opportunity. And Madam Administrator, thank you for being with us here today. First and foremost, before we start with our webinar, I want to have people's attention go to our Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions, please make sure to put them in there. I have my wonderful colleague, Nicola Montagna. She's our special assistant with the Office of Access to Capital, who will be moderating the chat. I'm sorry, she will be monitoring the chat and will be answering your questions on there. So if you do have questions, make sure to go to the Q&A box, not the chat box, so she can go ahead and respond to you there. So before we get started, let me just share my screen and we can kick off our webinar. Okay, perfect. I'm just waiting. Do you guys see my screen yet?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. So let me just share here. I'm just trying to move this menu here so I can share and make it big for you guys. 1 second, please. All right. Nope, it's not allowing me. All right, so we will do it this way. So the agenda for today is we're going to go through a few topics here. We're going to talk about what is RRF, what is the eligibility, our use of funds. We'll have a section on applying and our documents that are going to be needed. We're also going to talk about priority groups as well. Now, RRF, as many of you already know, stands for Restaurant Revitalization Fund. In the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA, it became public law on March 11, 2021, and established the RRF. ARPA appropriated $28.6 billion for RRF, authorizing SBA to award funds. The appropriations remain available until it's expended. So once the funds are gone, the program will be closing. Funds must be used for eligible expenses no later than March 11th, 2023. SBA may provide funding up to $5 million per location, not to exceed $10 million total for the applicant and any affiliated businesses. And the minimum award would be $1,000. So let's talk a little bit about eligibility. So we have eligible types of organizations. These are organizations that are C corporations, S corporations, partnerships, limited liability companies, sole proprietors, self-employed individuals, independent contractors, tribal businesses, LLC taxed as S corporations or sole proprietors. Now, please note, any B corporations are eligible, but they will have to select either C Corp or S Corp on the application, depending on how they were taxed. Also, refer to your tax return to see if you're self-employed versus sole proprietor distinction. Your tax return will have that listed on there. Now let's talk about eligible entities. So who is eligible for this wonderful program? Well, our restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts. We have caterers, bars, saloons, lounges, taverns, snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars, such as coffee shops and ice cream shops. We have licensed facilities or premises of a beverage alcohol producer where the public may taste, sample, or purchase products. Also, any other similar places or businesses in which the public or patrons assemble for the primary purpose of being served food or drinks. Now, on the right side of your screen, you'll see that these particular entities, bakeries, breweries, or microbreweries, wineries and distilleries and inns, they are also eligible. However, these entities, they need to have on-site sales of food or beverage to the public that comprise at least 33% of gross receipts. So just to reiterate, bakeries, breweries, microbreweries, wineries, distilleries, and inns, you are available to apply, but you have to show that you have at least 33% of gross receipts of on-site sales of food or beverage to the public. So who are the folks that are not eligible? State or local government operated businesses are not eligible. As of March 13, 2020, if you own or operate together with any affiliated businesses more than 20 locations, regardless of whether those locations do business under the same or different names or are in different industries, you would not be eligible. If you have a pending application for or have received a Shutter Venues Operators Grant, you will not be eligible. If you are a publicly traded company, if you are permanently closed, if you are a nonprofit organization, and you will not be eligible, and you're not eligible for funding of at least $1,000. So these are the entities that would not be eligible under this particular program. Now, many times we get asked, well, what if we had to go through bankruptcy? Can I still apply? So here you'll see two boxes. You are eligible if you are operating under an approved plan of reorganization under either a Chapter 11, Chapter 12 or Chapter 13 bankruptcy and meet all program requirements, then you are eligible. You are also eligible if you had to temporarily close your doors due to state or local restrictions because of the pandemic. You are eligible if you had to do that and if you are planning to reopen your doors. Now, when we talk about bankruptcy, you would not be eligible if you have permanently closed, if you filed a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy or filed for either a Chapter 7, Chapter 11, Chapter 12, or Chapter 13 bankruptcy, but are not under any approved plan of reorganization. So I just wanted to make sure we go through that because I do get questions on that often. So let's talk about cross-program eligibility. Many folks ask, well, if I apply for RRF, can I apply for the Paycheck Protection Program or any other programs? As you can see here, PPP loans received by the RRF applicant will affect the applicant's funding calculation. So whatever you receive from your PPP loan, if you already received that funding, that's going to be deducted from your RRF application. So keep that in mind. If you're going for Shutter Vendor Operators Grant, entities that have a pending application for or received an RRF are not eligible to apply for the Shutter Vendors Operators Grant. So please keep that in mind. If you do have a COVID-19 EIDL, you may apply for EIDL and RRF at the same time. There's no problem there. And of course, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund applicant, the same business cannot apply for RRF more than once. So remember, you can only submit one application. Folks have also asked, do I have to register myself into sam.gov, or do I need a DUNS or a cage identifier for this particular program? The answer is you do not. So you do not need to register for sam.gov, and SBA is not requiring a DUNS or a cage number for this particular application. Now, valid unexpired ITINs are acceptable, and there's some links on here in case you want to take a photo that you can get additional information from the IRS on that. So what happens if I have a PPP loan or a SVO grant? Well, PPP funds will be subtracted from your final funding, as mentioned. You will be verified using the EIN, your ITIN, or your Social Security number associated with your PPP loan. If you receive a PPP loan, you must use the same EIN number for your RRF application that you used for your PPP application. So remember, you need to be consistent with the number that you're using. If you applied for PPP loans using different EINs, you must provide all EINs that you are utilizing on your RRF application. When you apply for RRF, you must withdraw any outstanding PPP application. So let me just clarify that. If you have applied for PPP and have not received any funding, and you go and apply for RRF, you have to go back to your lender and withdraw your PPP application. That's different than if you've already received your PPP funds and you apply for RRF, then at that point, we would deduct your PPP funds from your RRF total amount on that application. So there's a difference there. Now, for the Shutter Venue Operators Grant, you cannot have a pending application for or have received any Shutter Venue Operator Grant funds and apply for RRF. So let's talk about use of funds. How can I use funds? Well, eligible business expenses are payroll costs, and this actually includes sick leave for your employees, utility payments, maintenance expenses, supplier and supplier cost, food and beverage expenses, construction of outdoor seating is also included, payments of any business mortgage obligation and or debt, and business operating expenses. Now, this can be insurance, marketing, fees, licenses, legal, point of service equipment, things of that nature. All of that is accepted. Now, by when do I have to use the funds? Well, the funds must be spent on expenses that were or are incurred between February 15, 2020 and March 11, 2023. If the business permanently closes after receiving funds, the covered period will end when the business permanently closes or on March 11, 2023, whichever occurs sooner. Any funds not spent on eligible expenses by the time the covered period ends must be returned to the government. And to continue, there is a use of funds assessment. So after the total awarded funds have been exhausted, entries must provide a detailed expenditure report and certification for the required period. Until you complete the use of funds assessment beginning December 2021, you are required to provide self-reported unaudited data detailing use of distributed funds each year through 2023. So it's very important to keep track of how you're utilizing your funds throughout the upcoming years. SBA will provide additional guidance that outlines the detailed reporting requirements and procedures in the coming weeks. Those guidance will be on our website at sba.gov/restaurants, or if you prefer to view it in Spanish, sba.gov/restaurantes. So let's talk about calculations and scenarios. There's typically 3 scenarios that you would fall in, and each scenario has its own calculation. So if you're in operation prior to or on January 1st, 2019, use the formula below. You would need to have your 2019 gross receipts minus 2020 gross receipts minus PPP loan amount, and that will equal the total amount that you would be requesting. The second scenario is if you began operations partially through 2019, you would then use your average 2019 monthly gross receipt. So remember, it would be your average, multiply that by 12 minus your 2020 gross receipts minus your PPP loan amounts, if you have them, and that will equal your total amount that you would place on the application. Now, if you began operations partially in 2019, you may choose to use this calculation or the next calculation that we're going to go through, but the next calculation will be a little bit longer for processing time. So this is the third scenario. If you began operations on or between January 1, 2020 and March 10th, 2021, and have not yet opened, but have incurred eligible expenses as of March 11th, 2021, this is the calculation you're going to want to use. So you need to add eligible expenses from February 15, 2020 through March 11, 2021. So first add all of those eligible expenses together. Once you have that, you're going to deduct 2020 gross receipts. You're going to deduct 2021 gross receipts through March 11, 2021. You're going to deduct any PPP loans that you have, and then that's going to equal your total amount that you want to put on that application. Now remember, just reading the asterisk on the bottom, it says if you began operations partially in 2019, again, you may choose this one, calculation 3, or the previous one. Just keep in mind that if you use this particular calculation, number 3, there is going to be a little bit more of a longer processing time for this particular scenario. So we've spoken a lot about 2020 gross receipts, right? And many questions is, what can I exclude when it comes from 2020 gross receipts? Well, your first draw PPP loan or your second draw PPP loan received in 2020 and or 2021. You want to exclude any SBA Section 1112 payments. Exclude SBA economic injury disaster loans, any EIDL advance, targeted EIDL advance, or any other grant funds you received via the CARES Act. You want to exclude any state and local business grants, and also exclude any Randolph-Shepard Act financial relief and restoration payments or an appropriation. So these are the items that you would need to exclude from 2020 gross receipts. So let's talk about applying, where to apply and what documents you're going to need. So there's 3 ways that folks can apply. You can go to our website, restaurants.sba.gov. That's the portal, and you can apply directly on that platform. You can also use our point of sale vendors. Now, SBA is actively looking to partner with more point of sale vendors providers, and we will be placing that on our website as well. Or you can also apply by phone. The 844-279-8898 phone number is open Monday through Friday, I believe, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they will be taking telephonic applications, and they do speak multiple languages. So if English is not your strongest language, you can ask for a Spanish speaker, for example, and they will transfer you to someone who is fluent in Spanish. Now, here we have, what documents do I need in order to apply? So the documents that you will be needing, and you might be wanting to start gathering this, is our SBA Form 3172. You will need to make sure everything is completed, initialed, and signed. You will also need verification of tax information. So IRS Form 4506T needs to be completed and signed by you, the applicant. And you'll also need gross receipts documentation. Any of the following documentations demonstrating gross receipts is, if applicable, will be acceptable. So this would be business tax returns, IRS Forms 1120 or IRS Form 1120S, as in Sam, any IRS Form 1040 Schedule C, or IRS Form 1040 Schedule F, as in Frank. If you have a partnership, your partnership's IRS form, which is 1065, and this includes the K1s. Any bank statements, external or internal prepared financial statements such as income statements or profit and loss statements, and any point of sale reports, including IRS Form 1099-K. So you can utilize all of those types of documentations. Now, for applicants that are a brew pub, a tasting room, tap room, brewery, winery, distillery, or bakery, you will need to show that you have on-site sales of food or beverage to the public comprise at least 33% of gross receipts, right? So it would be for the year 2019. So in order to show this, you can include your tax and trade bureau forms, state or local forms filed, or internally created reports from inventory management, sales reporting, or accounting software. You can, for businesses that opened in 2020, the applicant's original business model should have been contemplated at least 33% of gross receipts on-site sales to the public. Now, for applicants that are an inn, documents evidencing that on-site sales of food and beverage to the public comprise of at least 33%, again, of gross receipts for 2019. And for businesses that open in 2020, the applicant's original business model should have contemplated at least 33% of gross receipts on-site sales of food and beverage to the public. So these are the types of documentations that you can provide in order to show evidence that you have at least 33% of gross receipts from either 2019 that shows that you have 33% of on-site sales of food and beverage to the public. Now, how do I get help if I get stuck with the application? You can call our hotline center at 1-844-279-8898. You can also go and find out your resource partners in your local SBA office. They can assist you. You do that by going to sba.gov/assistance, and you will put your zip code on there, and you'll get a list of all of your local resource partners in your SBA office. We are here to offer our services at no cost to you. And again, help is available in multiple languages, especially if you utilize the call center number. Now, this is very important. When you're doing the application, you must certify that current economic uncertainty makes the funding request necessary to support your ongoing or anticipated operation. So make sure you do that certification or that attestation on that application. It's very important to do so. So let's talk a little bit about best practices. You need to provide complete documentation. You need to leverage your resources. So if you have an accountant, a bookkeeper, CPA, make sure to leverage them. Make sure that the information is correct. Now, this is very important. Why? Because if the application is incorrect, if there's an incorrect number or sequence of number, you're going to have to go back and fix that. The SBA cannot do that for you. We cannot make corrections on the application. So every time you make a correction, it's going to, your application is going to take longer to process. So you want to make sure everything on your application is accurate. And if you intend to apply for PPP, complete that application before applying for RRF. So these are some tips to keep in mind. Now let's talk about priority groups. You guys may have already heard that there is priority groups that the SBA is providing to ensure that our mom and pops and our smaller restaurant owners are able to obtain the funding. So the priority period for days 1 through 21. SBA will be only applications from business owners owned by women, veterans, socially and economically disadvantaged applicants will be funded during this period. So days 1 through 21, the SBA will be processing loans that come from these priority groups. On day 22, all other eligible applications will be processed and funded until the program funds have exhausted. So you have the first 21 days. If you fall under one of these groups, women, veterans, socially and economic disadvantage, you have the first 21 days to place your application so we can process you right away. So let's talk a little bit about definitions on priority groups. So a business concern that is of at least 51% owned and the management and daily business operations of the applicant are controlled by one or more individuals who are women, veterans, socially and economically disadvantaged. The applicants must self-certify on the application that they meet these requirements. Now, many people ask, well, what does socially and economically a disadvantage mean? Well, I'm glad folks are thinking that. So here's the definition. Socially disadvantaged individuals are those who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural biases because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. Now, economically disadvantaged individuals are those socially disadvantaged individuals whose ability to compete in free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital and credit opportunities as compared to others in the same business area who are not socially disadvantaged. So this is basically the difference between the two. Very important. You will be disqualified if you reorganize your business for purposes of qualification for the priority period. So please keep that in mind. Now, the SBA does have 3 different funding categories. $5 billion is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than $500,000. An additional $4 billion is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipt from $500,001 to $1.5 million. And an additional $500 million is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than $50,000. Now, please remember, SBA does reserve the right to reallocate these funds at their discretion and at the discretion of the administration. Now, these are some important contact information if you'd like, if you need more information on our Restaurant Revitalization Fund program, please go to sba.gov/restaurants. If you would like for it to be in Spanish, sba.gov/restaurantes. To locate your SBA office or any of our resource partners, please go to sba.gov/assistance. All you need to do is put your zip code and you'll get a list with contact information of your local SBA office and your resource partners. And for any additional SBA COVID-19 relief information, go to sba.gov/relief. We have all of our programs listed there for you to obtain additional details. I do encourage folks to stay connected with SBA. We are here every day of the year, not just during times of disaster or pandemic. So we are here for our small businesses throughout the year. Please follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and join our newsletter. If you go to sba.gov/updates and put your zip code, you will be getting information on any new programs that we come from your local area as well. So very important. So that pretty much covers the presentation. Now, we are here to answer any questions you have. I know my colleague Nicola has been on in the question and answer box, responding to questions. But Brianna, if you'd like, we can take some live questions as well.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for that great presentation. We do have quite a few questions coming in. I would like to turn it to some of our members who have joined us via video today from around the country to ask some of our first questions. So we would like to start with Ms. Maida Pineda, the President and CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Louisiana.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Victoria. As you know, the restaurant industry in Louisiana has been greatly impacted, forcing many establishments to close. In a state where food is a must, the RRF brings much needed lifeline to keep doors open and an opportunity to rebound and advance. How is the SBA ensuring minority business owners can access the funds from this new grant? And how important will it be to work with networks like the USHCC and our over 200 local chambers throughout the nation?
Well, thank you so much for that question, Myra. I really appreciate it. And yes, I've heard wonderful things about Louisiana. Never been there, but I'm a foodie and I look forward to it. So I appreciate your question. And I do know restaurants are very important, not just in Louisiana, but across the nation, to help stir our economy and keep people employed. So to answer your question, one of the things that the SBA and this administration has been doing to ensure that our minority groups are getting the access that they need to the funding is we've created those priority groups that we mentioned. So remember, days 1 through 21, that is dedicated for those minority groups, the women, if you're women owned, veteran owned, if you're socially or economically disadvantaged owned, those first 21 days are your days to apply. And we will be processing those applications first. On day 22, we will accept and start processing the rest of the application. So my recommendation to folks is that if you fall into one of those priority groups, please make sure to apply during those first 21 days that the portal is open. That's very, very important. And Myra, as you mentioned, it's extremely important for folks to utilize our chambers of commerce, just like this, our wonderful, Hispanic chambers of commerce across the nation. You can also utilize our resource partners and your local SBA office. We are all here to help our restaurant owners and our business owners with applying for these types of programs and support that you guys need. So thank you so much for that question. It was a wonderful question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from Ms. Nicole Marquis, who is the owner of Hip City Veg Restaurants in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. Nicole?
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, Administrator Carranza. So good to meet you. And thank you so much, Victoria, for the wonderful and thorough presentation. This is really helpful. My name again is Nicole Marquis. I am the founder and CEO of 9 plant-based restaurants in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., including Hip City Veg, Bar Bonbon, and Charlie Was a Sinner. I'm also the founder of Save Philly Restaurants, a coalition of owners of about 300 restaurants that we created during the pandemic to advocate for restaurants' desperate needs. From what I have read, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is a phenomenal program that is going to help a lot of smaller restaurants that were most severely impacted so they can get back to business rather than shutting their doors. It's so important that the SBA is prioritizing those who are most heavily impacted, such as women, veterans, and historically, socially, and economically disadvantaged groups, many of whom were also hardest hit by the pandemic. So thank you. We believe that several of our restaurants will qualify under the published standards, as some of our locations are still really suffering, especially those in core business districts. The question, though, that I'm hearing most from other restaurant owners is, what happens when the money from this incredible program runs out, which we understand will happen very quickly based on the massive need and demand? Will more funds be added to fill those needs? We really appreciate all you and the Biden administration are doing for small businesses and restaurants in particular, so we can get back to work welcoming our guests. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for that wonderful question and for owning all these wonderful restaurants. I know being in the restaurant industry does have its challenges, but it also has its wonderful outcomes as well. So thank you for that. So in regards to what happens when the funding runs out, will we be getting additional funds? That's something that we don't know at this time. As you all may know, this is something that is decided by Congress and by our legislatures. So what I would say to folks is just, join our newsletter, because that's the quickest way to get information whenever we have new programs, or if the programs are extended. We always send information out to those that are on our email database. Of course, we also do press releases to get information out through the media. So what I would say is just keep an eye, on the program. And if you haven't yet done so, join our newsletter, sba.gov/updates, and you'll be one of the first to know if the program is extended or if there's additional funding or additional programs. But at this time, we don't have that information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Our next question comes from Ms. Lily Rocha, the CEO and Executive Director of the Latino Restaurant Association. Lily?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Victoria. My name is Lily Rocha, and I represent the Latino Restaurant Association. We have over 800 members across the United States. First of all, I wanted to thank you and the Biden administration for listening to the unique needs of our business owners of color. We are so happy to have such mechanisms as the priority group, as I feel it will help many of our members. What would you like me to convey to our members who frankly are a little fatigued with all of the paperwork? I know you kind of went through it a little bit, but I have been getting that question from people that, they're trying to get back to work, and now it's like, okay, another situation where they have to, fill out papers and all that. So I think you guys have made it a little bit easier, correct?
Yes, we have. you know, I'll be the first to say that when it comes to government programs, yes, there's a lot of paperwork that you need to fill out, and that, you know, won't change. But, you know, this wonderful administration has made it a point to make it as simple as possible to folks. We have now a point of sale vendors in different restaurant locations. We are going to be putting a list of these locations on our website. So, you know, please make sure to check that. It's going to be very easy. We're going to be utilizing technology where you can just go in there and go up to a machine and do your application right then and there. You also can apply through our portal from the convenience of your home, or you can also apply through our 844 phone number. They can also accept your applications through the phone. However, those take a little bit longer to process. So I always, you know, want to let folks know of that. And Lily, you know what I also recommend, folks? I recommend everyone to go to the website. We have a sample application on there that folks can download, and they can start going through that application and gathering all their documents. So once the portal opens, you guys are ready to go and you can submit right away. So that application can be found on sba.gov/restaurants or /restaurantes if you would like for that in Spanish.
Thank you. We'll make sure that we convey all the information on our website, LatinoRestaurantAssociation.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Lily. Well, that concludes our live questions, but we would love to open it up, Victoria, with your permission, to some of our questions from the Q&A and the chat. And I really want to do a special thanks to Nicola, who has been answering many of our Q&A questions live in real time. But here is our first one. Susana Lozano, will a franchisee need to file an application as part of a franchisor or on our own?
And Nicola, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a person is a franchisee, I believe they do need to be part of our franchisee directory. Is that correct, Nicola?
Yep, that's right.
And Nicola, would you be able to point them to where to go to for the franchisee directory?
I don't have that link offhand, but you'll be able to look up in the application portal if you're already on our list. And then if you're not, you'll be able to apply. If you apply to PPP and receive PPP, you're most likely already on there. And you'll be able to follow the process to get on that list in order to apply for Rrf. But you should apply individually. Your franchisor will not be applying on your behalf.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nicola.
Thank you to you both for answering that great question. We have a few different catering companies asking questions, and one is Ms. Denise Hernandez. If a catering company does not use a POS, what other types of documents are allowed for the application?
Well, you know, if they do not use any point of sale vendors, the applications that we went through on the webinar, those are be allowed. Nicola, I don't know if you have some additional specifics that you would like to share with them.
Yeah, I can provide some other examples. So your 2019 tax returns are required if you were open in 2019. And for 2020, we prefer your tax returns, but we know that you might not have applied or filed yet. So the point of sale reports from, for example, Clover and Aloha, who are our partners. We accept others as well. So maybe you use Upserve or Rebel or some other point of sale provider. We'll accept those reports as well. And those are another preferred form of documentation because it helps us to validate your gross receipts number. Some other forms of documentation that are accepted include your internal kind of interim financial statements. So maybe a profit and loss statement that you have from your accounting software, your balance sheet documentation that you authorize and sign to be true and correct. If you have the ability to get a third-party accountant or CPA comfort letter, kind of saying that, you know, we've reviewed these financial statements and we certify that these are true and correct, that does help in our review process to kind of expedite things, but we know you might not have the ability to get that. So we do accept all those forms of documentation for eligible expenses. we accept those financial statements that I listed. And you could also, if you must upload the kind of individual documentation, so payroll documents for the payroll expenses, invoices for, you know, certain construction of outdoor seating, or et cetera, if you're using calculation 3 that involves eligible expenses. So those are some of the examples, definitely not limited to point of sale reports, but those are a really great form of documentation for us at SBA to be able to review your application quickly.
Thank you, Nicola. And Brianna, just to remind folks, I know there's a lot of documentations, a lot of different calculations. Please don't be shy. Reach out to all of our resource partners by going to sba.gov/locations, and you can obtain information through there.
Perfect. We are receiving lots of questions about, will these slides be available? Is this recorded? Yes, we will definitely be following up with each of you that registered with all of the information that you're getting today. So thank you for that question, many of you. Here's another good one that several people have. Is this program a loan like the PPP? How is the RRF different?
So the PPP is a program that is managed through our lenders, through our banks. So it's a program that's completely managed through them. We guarantee the loans through them, but they manage and they run our PPP programs as well as the forgiveness part of it. And it's a forgivable loan. It's a loan, but it's forgivable if you utilize it in the categories that you're supposed to utilize the expenses with in the spirit of that particular law. Now, the RRF is different because this is money that does not have to be paid back. It is run through SBA directly. We're not utilizing our banks for that. So this is something that was created specifically for our restaurant owners and folks that fall under the food and beverage entity. Another difference is that PPP, as you all know, was created for any small business to apply that is in need. But RRF is specifically for our restaurant and any food and beverage industry that falls within that particular umbrella of industry.
Thank you, very helpful. Our next question from several folks: can businesses with an ITIN number apply for this fund, and will this change?
I don't believe it would change. If I remember correctly, and Nicola, correct me if I'm wrong, but people that do have ITIN numbers can apply for this program. That should not be a problem. It should not be a challenge or a barrier. I do not know that that will change. I don't think it will, but at the moment, you guys can go ahead and apply if you have an ITIN number. That's not a problem.
Perfect. A few folks are asking, I think you went over part of this already, Victoria, but when will the application officially open? And can you remind folks if it will also open in Spanish?
Oh, Nicole, I didn't know if you wanted to speak. I saw you go on mute. Go ahead, you can take the question.
Well, I just wanted to, so we announced yesterday that you can register for the application portal starting Friday, April 30th at 9 a.m. Eastern. And the portal website is restaurants.sba.gov. You could visit the site now, you just won't be able to register until Friday, April 30th at 9 a.m. And registering just encompasses putting your email in, making your password, and getting all set up for when applications open. Applications open on Monday, May 3rd at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And we really encourage everyone applying directly through SBA to apply as soon as you can on Monday, and ideally right when the application opens. So kind of getting all your resources together, going through that sample application Victoria mentioned, and getting prepared so that you're ready to apply on Monday. This will help with us to be able to determine the demand and kind of make that case as was asked earlier. What if there's not enough funds? We'll be able to right away say, look how many people need these funds. Like we can show Congress the demand there. And it'll also help you make sure you get your application in as soon as possible, as SBA will be processing on a first in, first out basis, aside from that priority period that we did mention. So the site is at restaurants.sba.gov. If you use Square or Toast as your point of you'll apply directly through them. And so the registration doesn't apply to you because you already have your account with those point of sale vendors, and you'll be able to apply directly in their website portal. But if you're using the SBA option, if you're using the Clover statements or the Aloha statements that they'll provide you, you should register on Friday or over the weekend and then apply as soon as you can on Monday.
Thank you so much, Nicola. Well, I know we are running out of time, and we will definitely be following up with a lot of these questions via email. But before we close out, Victoria, would you like to add any final remarks for our audience?
I just want to make sure that folks apply, and through our Hispanic chambers, y'all help us get the information out to the restaurant owners in your local areas. It's very important that they utilize this fund, which is in essence for them. And as Nicola mentioned, we need to apply as quickly as possible to show Congress that there's a need, and perhaps there will be more funding or another program coming up. But it's very important for folks to apply as soon as it opens. Remember, if you fall within those priority groups, take advantage of those first 21 days. Remember to go to our website, download the sample application so you can use that as a guide to start preparing all your documents. And if you need assistance, you can go to any SBA resource partners. I saw a lovely lady, I think her name was Mary, put on the chat that SCORE is wonderful. SCORE is one of our resource partners. And we also have our SBDC, Small Business Development Centers, our Women Business Centers, and of course, our wonderful chambers throughout the US that we're here to help folks apply for these programs. So I just encourage everyone, please prepare yourself, take these next few days to get ready. So once the portal is open, you'll be one of the first to apply, be processed, and get funded.
Amazing. I'd like to turn it now to our Chief of Staff at the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Richard Garcia, to close us out.
Thank you, Brianna, and thank you, Victoria, Nicola, and everyone at the SBA team, of course, Administrator Isabella Guzman, for joining us this afternoon and really sharing firsthand y'all's commitment to Hispanic and minority-owned restaurants who have been hit so hard by the pandemic. I mean, we're preaching to the choir here when we say that there's a strong impact that COVID has had, unfortunately, on our restaurants, and we need to take care of them. So we're really appreciative of the fact that the SBA under Administrator Guzman's leadership, and of course the Biden administration, considers Latino and minority-owned restaurants a priority. And we all know that through them we'll be able to power our American economic recovery as we come out of COVID-19 and as we begin to vaccinate and reopen our businesses again. And so thank you to our co-hosting organizations across the country and for your commitment to Latino and minority-owned businesses. Our national network of more than 250 Hispanic chambers of commerce are on the line, and we saw many of them in the chat box and in the Q&A. So thank you so much, Jaime in Illinois, Santos in Florida, and so many others, Evelyn Lugo in South Carolina. And so a reminder that just a couple of housekeeping items before we close out. Like Brianna and Victoria and the team mentioned, the slides and the recording will be available to everyone who registered with us, and we'll send that after the webinar. If you didn't register and you're watching us on Facebook Live or a third party, just send us an email at info@ushcc.com and we'll be happy to send you that information. And if you have any questions at all, if you feel like there's still more that we can do, please send us an email as well at info@ushcc.com, and we'll be in touch with the Small Business Administration, who really understands the commitment and the importance of helping support our Latina and Latino entrepreneurs. One last point before we close out, a reminder, the time to open the registration for the application portal begins this Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. Like Victoria and the team mentioned, in order to access, please go to restaurants.sba.gov, and the applications will begin to be accepted on Monday, May 3rd at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Y para información en español, SBA también tiene un portal con toda la información en español, sba.gov/restaurantes. Y ahí pueden encontrar toda la información que gusten en español si lo prefieren. So with that, Victoria, team, everyone, Brianna, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We'll be in touch. Quedamos atentos a sus órdenes. And please, please, please stay safe out there and get vaccinated. Thank you so much. Have a good day.